You're watching a Highwire Media podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Cinema Gold Show. I'm your host, Larry Leese. And of course, before we get started, Happy New Year and welcome to 2025. This year, we're beginning our series reviewing of White Collar episode by episode. Each week, we'll review each episode from White Collar. And of course, we start off this year with the pilot episode. And before we do that, let me know your thoughts on the pilot episode of White Collar in the comments section below. Right down there. Just leave a comment. And with that, let's dive into today's episode of reviewing Season 1, Episode 1. White Collar was created by Jeff Easton, premiering on the USA Network on October 23, 2009. The series quickly garnered attention for its unique blend of crime procedural elements, lighthearted banter, clever heists, and an unexpectedly charming partnership between a seasoned FBI agent and a suave con artist. Season 1, Episode 1, obviously commonly referred to as the pilot, introduces us to this world and sets the tone for a show that is equal parts cat and mouse detective story, buddy comedy, and sophisticated art heist thriller. Tonight, we'll explore the pilot in extensive detail, discussing everything from the establishing shots and world-building elements to character development and narrative pacing, and to the series' broader thematic implications. By the end, you should have a thorough appreciation for this opening episode and a sense of how it fits into the larger tapestry of White Collar. At its core, White Collar follows the exploits of Neil Caffrey, played by Matt Bomer, a brilliant forger and con man with a penchant for high-end art theft, and Peter Burke, played by Tim DeKay, the dedicated FBI agent who finally put Neil behind bars. The series begins with Neil escaping from prison with barely 3 months left on a 4-year sentence. When Peter tracks him down, Neil proposes an unlikely deal in exchange for early release and leniency. He will help the FBI catch other white-collar criminals. Realizing Neil's immense value as a consultant, Peter and the FBI's white-collar crime division agree to the partnership, albeit with some reluctance and plenty of skepticism. This fish-out-of-water scenario forms the show's underlying concept, the law enforcement official and the con man working side by side, each with a unique skill set, forging an odd and frequently tense partnership. A big part of the show's charm is that it dives into a type of criminal procedural that isn't just about violence or local police work. It's focused on sophisticated, high-stakes capers involving art, finance, and elaborate con artistry. This is a departure from many other crime-based series. This episode hence needs to accomplish several objectives. Introduce us to Neil's brilliance in moral gray areas, depict Peter's unwavering dedication to the law, and show us just enough chemistry between the two leads to hook us for what is to come. The first few minutes of the pilot are crucial in capturing the audience's attention and swiftly establishing Neil Caffrey's audacious nature. We begin inside a prison, witnessing Neil at the tail end of a 4-year sentence for bond forgery and various cons. Contrary to typical images of hardened criminals, Neil is impeccably dressed in prison attire that somehow still looks tailored. We learn that he's only 3 months shy of completing his sentence, yet he orchestrates a daring, almost flamboyant escape. He disguises himself as a janitor, a plan executed with near surgical precision. The scene does not rely on heavy exposition, rather it visually communicates Neil's resourcefulness, from using a contraband uniform to forging a bogus ID, coolly walking out of the facility's doors. The viewer recognizes that he's not just any criminal. He's meticulous, confident, and most importantly, intellectually one step ahead of those chasing him. Immediately, this sets the tone. White Collar is going to be slick and fun, never fully dwelling in the grim realities of prison or the typical tropes of hardened criminals. Neil is charming. We see him remove his fake mustache and slip out with a smile. He's the anti-hero you find yourself rooting for, despite the fact that he's very much bending and outright breaking the rules. Cut to Special Agent Peter Burke, the man who caught Neil the first time. Peter's introduction is less dramatic, but just as effective in showing who he is. An earnest, meticulous FBI agent who doesn't get caught up in flashy theatrics. We see him poring over case files and tacking items onto a board. looking every bit the no-nonsense investigator. In these initial scenes, Tim DeKay conveys a quiet competence. He's not the swaggering, gun-wielding, heroic figure. Instead, his authority arises from intelligence and dogged persistence. Qualities that set him on a collision course with Neil, who thrives on improvisation, flair, and cunning. When Peter learns that Neil has escaped, his exasperation is evident. The subtext is immediately clear. Neil Caffrey is his caller. And the idea that Neil has outsmarted the prison system on a whim, just a few months before his sentence was up, speaks volumes about how unstoppable Neil's cunning might be if left unchecked. To Peter, Neil isn't just another fugitive. He's a personal challenge, a puzzle that the agent relishes solving. And indeed, we see that dynamic playing out on screen. Peter quickly tracks down clues, visits the deserted prison cell, and deduces that Neil's grand plan didn't revolve around a typical run for the border, but something more personal and urgent. One of the driving plot threads introduced right away is Neil's relationship with Kate Moreau. We discover that the prison escape was motivated by heartbreak. Kate has apparently left Neil, and his desperation to see her one last time spurred him to bust out in a rather theatrical manner. This romantic angle not only humanizes Neil, but also sets up a mystery that weaves through much of Season 1. You see hints, small notes, coded messages, an empty apartment. That Kate's departure isn't as straightforward as it seems. The pilot plants seeds that there is a bigger story at play regarding Kate, her motives, and possibly unseen threats that might have forced her to leave Neil. By weaving in this romantic pursuit, the writers effectively anchored Neil's character in an emotional quest. He's not purely a trickster who thrives on outsmarting law enforcement, he's also a man searching for a lost love, and that vulnerability shapes how he negotiates with Peter. This also sets up a question that lingers throughout the episode and the season. Can Neil truly be reformed, or is his desire to escape and chase illusions of romance always going to lure him back to his old ways? Neil's recapture by Peter is swift. He's found at the abandoned apartment once occupied by Kate, sitting on a mattress, dejected at a dead end. Instead of a dramatic chase across the city, we get a humanizing moment. Neil is for once out of options. Peter arrests him, but Neil has a proposition. Let him work with the FBI on a particular white-collar case that has been stumping them, and in return, reduce his remaining sentence. The FBI's reluctance is palpable, though the concept of criminal-turned-consultant has been explored in various shows and films. White Collar manages to make it feel fresh. There's a certain comedic interplay between Neil and Peter here, because Peter knows exactly how cunning Neil can be. Yet, the possibility of using Neil's inside knowledge of cons, forgeries, and elaborate theft schemes is too valuable to pass up. The audience wonders, can Neil be trusted? Can Peter keep him in line with just an ankle monitor and a watchful eye? These questions provide the tension that drives the series forward. While many crime dramas focus on murder investigations and violent confrontations, White Collar leaps into a realm rarely depicted with such flair, the high-stakes world of financial crimes, art theft, identity fraud, and other white-collar misdeeds. The pilot sets the tone by centering on a case involving forged Spanish war bonds from the early 20th century. This choice is instructive. It's historical, complex, and vaguely glamorous. Tracking down the culprit involves navigating exclusive auction houses, tracing the origin of suspicious documents, and analyzing minute differences in paper stock. It's a puzzle that demands specialized knowledge, and that is precisely where Neil's talents prove invaluable. We see Neil and Peter operating from an FBI office that feels distinctly different from the gritty precincts we're used to seeing on other cop shows. The environment is lighter, more modern, with big open workspaces and overhead fluorescent lighting. The visual palette aligns with the series' upbeat vibe. Moreover, White Collar uses New York City as a vibrant backdrop. Manhattan skyline, upscale neighborhoods, art museum, and hidden speakeasies all help shape an identity that is polished and sophisticated rather than gritty and bleak. Once Neil is officially a consultant for the FBI, we see him stepping into his new life. One of the most memorable moments is Neil's frustration with the FBI's subpar accommodations in standard issue borrowed suits. He refuses to be anything but impeccably dressed. going so far as to finagle his way into an exquisite wardrobe that better suits his style. This is a small, yet telling detail. Neil's entire persona is built around an aesthetic of elegance and polish. It's not just vanity, it's his well-dressed manner is a strategic choice. By wearing sharp suits and exuding class, Neil blends effortlessly into upscale environments where other criminals might be forging documents or planning art heists. We also see how Neil's charm extends beyond clothing. He banters with Peter's coworkers, flirts with a front desk agent at a hotel to glean information, and generally navigates the world with a smooth finesse that stands in stark contrast to Peter's more direct procedural approach. Comedic friction arises from Neil's wily methods. He's more likely to use personal connections or emotional leverage, whereas Peter adheres to standard investigative procedures. Viewers realize that while Neil might cut corners and push moral boundaries, he's also delivering results. This dynamic fuels the central partnership of the show. Each man has something to offer that the other lacks, and only by working together can they crack these intricate cases. An important part of Peter Burke's life is his wife, Elizabeth. Their marriage offers viewers a refreshing dynamic seldom seen in TV procedurals. Stable, loving relationship that does not revolve around contrived drama or infidelity. In the pilot, we see Elizabeth's calm and supportive presence offset the high-stress nature of Peter's job. She's introduced not as a sideline character, but as someone who fully understands Peter's passion for his work and respects his commitment to doing the right thing. While Elizabeth's role in the pilot is relatively small, it becomes clear that she has a unique vantage point on Neil. She recognizes Neil's charm and acknowledges his potential to be a good person, even if he's made questionable choices. This perspective will prove crucial, as Elizabeth often serves as a moral sounding board for Peter, reminding him that Neil might have hidden depths and needs empathy as well as supervision. The central case in the pilot, like we mentioned, involves an elusive figure known as the Dutchman, a master forger responsible for producing high-quality counterfeit Spanish war bonds. The FBI's white-collar division has been trying to unmask him, but each lead runs cold. Thanks to Neil's keen eye for detail and his decades of knowledge in forging and forging-adjacent activities, he picks up on minor details that the FBI missed, like the specific type of paper stock the Dutchman is using, which is unique to a long-defunct paper mill. This storyline demonstrates how White Collar merges detective work with intriguing historical facts and actual con artistry techniques. The steps that Neil and Peter take, visiting specialized printing press facilities, analyzing the chemical composition of inks, or investigating antique shops, feels meticulously researched. The show successfully immerses viewers in a world where the smallest detail, such as the watermark on a century-old bond, can mean the difference between a worthless forgery and $1 million windfall. Moreover, the Dutchman's identity is revealed through these investigative steps, culminating in a slick confrontation at an airport hangar or a similarly cinematic location. The interplay of high-stakes tension and intellectual puzzle solving keeps the episode engaging, emphasizing that White Collar is not just about choreographed shootouts or grit, but rather about using wit to bring clever criminals to justice. One of the show's distinguishing features, immediately evident from the pilot, is its love affair with New York City. The city itself becomes a character, from the scenic views of Central Park to the bustling sidewalks of Midtown Manhattan. White Collar uses real-life landmarks and locales, giving the show a cosmopolitan flair. That aesthetic is crucial. Neil's playground is the sophisticated world of museums, galleries, exclusive clubs, and high-finance offices. Where else but New York City can you so seamlessly weave together the glamour of the art world with the gritty reality of the FBI's constant chase? In the pilot, scenes shift from the unremarkable FBI offices to upscale restaurants to aged warehouses and finally to the stylish apartment Neil eventually calls home. This variety of settings visually drives home the show's wide range. It is as much about the people wearing $1,000 suits sipping champagne at fancy auctions as it is about forging a 90-year-old bond in the quiet shadows of an abandoned printing press. The camera's admiration for architectural details, sophisticated decor, and well-tailored fashion underscores the sense that White Collar wants to embrace a lighter, more glamorous side of crime drama. No review of this pilot would be complete without mentioning Mozzie, played by Willie Garson, Neil's oddball confidant and fellow con artist. While Mozzie's role in the pilot is relatively modest, his character serves to deepen our understanding of Neil's connections to the criminal underworld. Mozzie, with his paranoid quirks and historic knowledge and knack for infiltration, becomes a vital resource in the seasons to come. In the pilot, he mostly appears to assist Neil with gleaning intel and emphasizes the comedic aspect of Neil's life outside the FBI. Mozzie's presence also highlights the question: if Neil is truly reforming, why does he maintain contact with someone so deeply entrenched in con artistry? The show, of course, leaves that moral ambiguity for the viewer to grapple with. Is Neil stringing the FBI along while continuing to dabble in old habits? Or is he bridging two worlds out of necessity? Mozzie's unwavering loyalty to Neil is a testament to the complex nature of their friendship, one that is rooted in a shared history of elaborate scams, but also genuine care. The pilot effectively utilizes a ticking clock device. The Dutchman is gearing up to sell his forged bonds, and the FBI must apprehend him before the transaction occurs. This sense of urgency intensifies Neil's importance in the investigation. No one else in the Bureau has the requisite forger's insights or the connections. For the pilot, this is a smart storytelling choice. It prevents the introduction of Neil as a consultant from feeling drawn out or contrived. Instead, it's an immediate practical necessity. Additionally, the clock is ticking for Neil's personal life as he's desperate to find Kate and get answers about why she left him. Even though the romantic storyline is more of an undercurrent in the pilot, it still exerts a subtle pressure on Neil to play along with the FBI. He needs the freedom and resources to uncover Kate's whereabouts, and the best way to do that is by staying on the right side of the law. For now. The key strength of the White Collar pilot is that it doesn't provide neat answers to whether Neil can be reformed, or whether Peter is entirely comfortable with his decision to trust a former con. In some ways, Peter's deal with Neil is a leap of faith. They rely on Neil's integrity, even though Neil is by definition a master manipulator. The show highlights that con artistry isn't just about forging documents, it's about forging trust, illusions, and appearances. So one of the biggest questions the pilot poses is Neil conning the FBI or turning over a new leaf? The moral ambiguity extends to Peter as well. As an agent, he's unwavering in his pursuit of justice, but he's also pragmatic. He recognizes the intelligence and specialized knowledge Neil brings to the table. Moreover, he recognizes that he's the only agent who ever successfully caught Neil. The fact serves as both a point of pride and a cautionary tale. Peter slips up, Neil might slip away. That would be not just a professional embarrassment, but also a personal failure. The pilot crescendos in a classic White Collar style confrontation. Neil and Peter zero in on the Dutchman's final forging site or point of sale. There's a sting operation complete with Neil going undercover in a suave manner, and a last-minute twist that reveals just how the Dutchman planned to offload his forgeries. The tension isn't derived from shootouts, but from the possibility that Neil's cover might be blown, or the forged bonds might slip away. Seeing Neil's improvisational flair combined with Peter's disciplined approach cements their complementary dynamic. When the dust settles, the Dutchman is apprehended, the forgeries are seized, and Neil has proven his worth to the Bureau. At least for now. The pilot ends with a sense of triumphant collaboration, but also with the lingering question of how stable this arrangement can be. Neil is fitted with an ankle monitor and restricted to a 2-mile radius, which sets up the boundaries of his new life as a consultant. It's a neat resolution that ensures the basic premise is in place for the rest of the season. Neil is free to move, but not so free that he can vanish at will. Unless he has an ingenious plan for removing or bypassing that ankle monitor, which we suspect he might if truly motivated. The White Collar pilot stands out for its crisp and witty dialogue. It's a testament to Jeff Easton's writing that the show can tackle forgery and historical references without drowning the viewer in jargon or overcomplicated explanations. Scenes move swiftly, prepped with comedic banter that keeps the atmosphere light, even when the subject matter is serious. This tonal balance, equal parts intellectual puzzle, comedic interplay, heartfelt character moments, carried White Collar for multiple seasons, carving out a distinct identity among contemporary procedurals. Moreover, the pilot exemplifies how to introduce an overarching mystery, such as the Kate situation, while still providing a satisfying standalone case, The Dutchman. The viewer is left intrigued about Neil's personal quest and how it will interweave with future cases. All while enjoying a complete story in the pilot about taking down a cunning forger. This layering of pilot threads sets a strong precedent for the series' writing style, where each episode often features a self-contained investigation, but also pushes forward a larger narrative. Directed by Bronwyn Hughes, the pilot adopts a sleek visual style. Sunny exteriors, upscale interiors, well-lit office spaces dominate the color palette, creating a sense of optimism and buoyancy. Even the more rundown locations, like in an abandoned warehouse or a sketchy printing press, are shot in a way that highlights mystery over squalor. The camera work is fluid, often capturing Bomer or Decay's expressions in tight frames that accentuate the reactions and comedic timing. From a costuming standpoint, the pilot invests in Neil's signature look. His fedora, tailored suits, and well-polished shoes aren't just props, but an extension of his persona. Meanwhile, Peter's more understated attire underscores his practical approach to life. These visual cues may seem small, but they serve to visually illustrate the show's overarching theme. A polished con artist forced to cooperate with a level-headed FBI agent in a world that values appearance as much as authenticity. The pilot subtly introduces themes that will resonate throughout the show's run, including trust versus deception, freedom versus constraint, morality versus survival, and art and authenticity. By the episode's end, we have a strong sense of who Neil Caffrey is. Romantic, a con artist, a genius in forgery, and a disarmingly charming partner for an FBI agent who otherwise might come across as rigid. We also know that Peter Burke is more than just a suit behind a desk. He's a thoughtful investigator whose moral code is unshakable. Their budding partnership is rife with tension and comedic spark, hinting at deeper challenges ahead. The pilot effectively balances introducing the show's premise with telling a compelling crime story, leaving viewers eager to see how the unusual arrangement will resolve. Neil's personal quest to find Kate remains unresolved, which sets up the long-term storyline about his motivations and the questions of whether his involvement with the FBI is simply a means to an end. Meanwhile, Peter finds himself tentatively vouching for a criminal he once put behind bars, gambling his professional reputation in the hope that Neil's unique skills will pay off. The dynamic brims with potential. Will Neil's loyalty hold when it comes into direct conflict with his own personal needs? All in all, the pilot can be considered a resounding success for how deftly it establishes character, chemistry, and sets the thematic stage, and delivers a fun and breezing crime caper that highlights the show's distinctive identity. It's no small feat for a pilot to walk the tightrope between comedic charm and credible law enforcement intrigue, yet White Collar does so with an ease that mirrors Neil Caffrey's own confident stride. White Collar Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot, achieves everything a pilot should. Got a captivating introduction, established key relationships, had clear conceptual framework, it had a balanced tone, it provided hooks for future storylines. For any viewer new to White Collar, the pilot is a quintessential example of how to present the premise, define the dramatic tension, and showcase the vibrant personalities at the heart of the show. While some pilots can feel bogged down by exposition, this episode moves briskly, weaving essential details into dialogue and action without sacrificing pace or humor. The result is an entertaining hour of television that entices you to dive deeper into Neil's world and see how the push-pull relationship between criminal and agent evolves. Ultimately, if the measure of a good pilot is whether you want to click next episode immediately after the credits roll, White Collar nails it. The stylish blend of comedy, heartfelt moments, and cunning criminal pursuits explored by two leads with undeniable chemistry makes for a thoroughly enjoyable introduction. And as the rest of season 1 unfolds, the series continues to refine its formula, layering in more complex heists, deeper emotional arcs, and the building tension around Neil's quest for his lost love, Kate. In short, White Collar Season 1, Episode 1 accomplishes the difficult task of combining a playful tone with a legitimate sense of high-stakes danger, all the while getting us invested in the personal journeys of its main characters. Pilot is a must-watch for anyone who appreciates crime dramas that break the mold, swapping out grittiness and gruesome homicides for clever mind games, refined suits, and the irresistible promise of redemption through a cunning partnership. And with that, we want to hear your thoughts on Episode 1 of White Collar Season 1 in the comments section below. Of course, give us a thumbs up if you like your video. Hit that subscribe button down below. Another one down there, it says subscribe. Hit that, hit the bell notification button to be notified of future videos. Of course, if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/cinemagold. Your support helps the channel grow, upgrade our equipment, bring in new hosts, be able to pay them, and of course, take this show on the road. As always, you can find us on all major podcast platforms, GoodPod, Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcast from, you can find us. Of course, with that, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time.